All right, guys, here we are. Today we have with us another member of the Debt Council, Schad Brannon. Schad, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
I kind of want to tell a little bit of a story here because we had Roy on last episode and we got to talk to him a little bit about the physical side. And that's what we're going to be talking about, the physical side of debt today. But before we do that, I remember the first time I met you. It was probably about 2.5, 3 years ago. And you and Roy pull up to Brian Robert's house and you guys just start laying all this stuff out on the table.
That's right.
And different materials, and I did certain terms from it, but that was one of the most eye-opening things for me that I had ever seen. Number one, you guys pulled out all of the presentations with all the letters you guys had from the minerals commissions, and I want to talk a little bit about the scanning technology in a little bit.
Sure.
And your time in Ghana, what work you've been able to do out there. And maybe some of the contrast, right, between the U.S. and being out in West Africa for so long as well. Yeah. And so, I remember meeting you, and I remember, I was like, man, if we could just find a way to figure out how to work with these guys. And I know we lost track of you guys for a little bit, and, just through, the workings of the universe or, whatever you want to call it, I was able to reconnect with you and with Roy and with Jason and Jake, get to know them over these last 8 months. And it's been an amazing time here at Debtbox. And I can tell you all the IX community has been just amazed by what you guys have put together in the Debtbox with all the projects. But today I want to focus again a little bit on the physical side and the work you've done out in West Africa.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
So I guess first, maybe how did you specifically, what was it like your first trip out to West Africa?
It was a bit of a shock. There's quite a different lifestyle out there than there is here. And it wasn't really, didn't know what to expect. But as difficult and as third world country as it is, comes the opportunity as well, right? Mm-hmm. Because, people aren't as focused and in competition with one another in some of these third world countries. So, we saw an opportunity to go, into this area that was difficult to work in from a standpoint of logistics. Mm-hmm. They don't have equipment, they don't have technology, they don't have, the know-how. And if we could transplant some of that great technology and some of those processes and procedures that we perfected here in the U.S. and bring it to West Africa, we knew that we would be successful.
And I know one of the trips we took out, now that I went out with you guys to West Africa, to Ghana,
that's right,
a couple months ago now.
That's right.
And I don't know if it was you or Roy or specifically who it was, talking about getting a heavy piece of equipment down the road. And it took, someone said it took like a week to move it 1.5 miles. Right. And I was like, how could it take a week to move it 1.5 miles? But then you get out there, you see the roads, number one, but then you also have these little, at least when I went out, you can tell these little bridges or these little culverts, what we would consider here like a culvert style,
sure.
Waterway obstruction's been, filled over. You can tell it's been recently redone, right? But I guess 10 years ago or whenever you're going out there, they'd have to get the bulldozer off the
yeah, sometimes there's not access, so you have to build the access if you want to get to a certain location. So yeah, the infrastructure doesn't exist like it is here. I mean, we take a lot of things for granted in the United States that a lot of these third world countries, especially West Africa, doesn't have, like just the ability to drive down the road. So you want to get a hot dog or a cheeseburger or something, you go outside, you jump in your car, you drive down the street, and you go to a restaurant and you buy it. Mm-hmm. Or, currently, they bring it to your front door.
DoorDash.
That doesn't exist in West Africa. If you want something, you got to go out. You got to collect all the things that you need to make it, and then you've got to make it. So it's the same way. Like mining or natural resource development here in the United States is a completely different ballgame than it is working inside of a third world country where none of those luxuries exist.
Now, in your time out there, I imagine you guys started to develop or cultivate relationships out there, right? Maybe let's talk some of the key relationships you have out there specifically for projects in GROW or DLG or whatever specifically is coming out of West Africa right now.
Sure. So when we went out there, going on 5-6 years ago, we went out there to go assess some large-scale mining opportunities. And, we were convinced that we could take our technology and our processes and procedures out there and be successful, because obviously, there's not a lot of technology sharing going on between, the United States and third world countries in
Correct.
West Africa. So that's how it started. It's morphed into something much bigger and greater than that. And that was partially by immediately meeting some of the people in the government and hearing, their challenges and what the problems that they were trying to solve. And they weren't the same as what we were trying to achieve, but we knew that we had solutions for them. So we knew that coming together and sharing our technology would start to solve a lot of their problems. And some of their problems, just for instance, were, trying to lift people out of poverty, right? And stop the illegal mining from going on, because again, it has a negative, environmental impact the way that they're doing it. It's not organized, they're not taxing it. It's kind of a free-for-all, and it's a bit...
It's a wild, wild west right now.
Very
right?
much so.
And then I know when we were walking out to that DLG site, we were walking with you, and I saw a piece of equipment on the side of the road. It was a track hoe or something, and a couple of them throughout the drive out there.
Sure.
And they were just burnt out. They were. I was like, why is this there's $100,000 machine or a couple $100,000 machine sitting on the side of the road, and everything's kind of just like glass is broken out. It's been set on fire. It's been taken apart, rated for parts. And I know you told me a story, the illegal mining or even some other countries. And I don't want to point out a specific country right now.
Sure.
But the processes that they're using, what they're using locals to go out and chemically separate.
Yeah, they use like mercury and cyanide and very dangerous chemicals to in the field to separate the precious metals from the earth or the host material. And
that little kid or that teenager or they're working, they think they're just making a wage, and they don't no idea what's going on with their health.
What they're being exposed to. So, and again, even the environment, because they're using these unfriendly chemicals and heavy metals, and it's getting into the ecosystem. So it's getting into the waterways. It's starting to affect their water. You're starting to see birth defects, cancer. Generations after generations that have been going on for a long time. So it's not good. And the government has been looking for ways to solve this problem. A lot of the larger multinational companies, they go in there and yes, they do create jobs, which is a good thing, but they don't really give back to the communities in which they operate. We're much different. We go in with that being one of our mandates because we were able to do a technology transfer with the government and say, look, we've got this fantastic technology. We can make this process more efficient. We can make this process less expensive. We can make this process more eco-friendly, and we can hire the people, the local people, to do the work, because that's really all they want. They don't want to be illegal miners. They want to be community miners, right? But that takes organization. That takes resources. That takes funds. It takes equipment. All these things. It takes training and people to be able to come into those communities and show them how to properly do it. Use these safer methods and processes. Don't use these, unhealthy chemicals that are damaging you, and you just don't know it because you're just not educated and no one has explained it to you. And again, you don't want to damage your ecosystem because, again, everybody drinks from the same river.
Correct.
And if you're using, hazardous chemicals to try to get a few ounces of gold, you're damaging big parts of the ecosystem. So it's just not good.
Yeah.
So again, going to West Africa, we saw the challenges that we were going to face, but we also saw the opportunities too. Yeah. So once we kind of got our footing and realized what we could transfer to the government, and in exchange get the cooperation from them to help organize the community, then we could be really effective. And so where we went initially to just mine gold, right, it kind of turned into something more.
Yeah.
Right? It was, we can create an entire program where we can help these people, lift them out of poverty, really improve their quality of life, still achieve the same goal by exposing the government and the parties to our technology, and still be mining gold. So it was really a win-win-win for everybody.
And one of the things that I've seen, knowing you and seeing what you were doing while I was in Africa, and obviously some conversations we've had before this podcast, is, I think some people look at the light papers for the different projects,
Sure.
GROW, DLG, and there's the 8 key benefits in there. And I think a lot of people don't realize, and I spoke about this a little bit with Roy, is there's a lot of human work that you guys man hours that you guys put into pushing these projects forward, because sometimes, whether it's the government or private contractors or local employees, they just don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to do. And the supervision or the management that you offer, that debt offers to them, you need somebody there to drive it. And talk maybe a little bit about the commitment you have to have with the projects or government or communities in that area.
So, no, it's a great point, Joe. And the reality is that if you break it down to its lowest common denominator, you're talking about, like GROW, for instance. You're talking about farmers that maybe farm 50, 100 acres, right? Which is pretty big. Some of them may be even smaller than that. 10 acres here, 15 acres there. But again, it's very select. So they're really living on pennies, a month, pennies a day, to basically, grow this crop and then bring it to market, right? So our outgrowing program that we've done with GROW, organizes that whole situation and the whole community, right, to bring everybody together. So if we all decide that this next grow season that we're going to grow soybeans or rice or maize or, a cash crop that's, critical to the environment or to the population to feed them, but also to export for, subsistence, to earn a living. And we all get together and they all grow the same crops.
And that's a great point with the co-op, right? With GROW in there.
Exactly.
And bringing everybody together, grouping everybody together now lowers your cost of, the seeds or the materials or maybe even equipment now being able to share from one farm to another, and the rotation of crops. I grew up as a farmer.
Yeah.
I grew up on 40 acres of apple orchard, 10 acres of vegetable garden. And we would have our little, stand on the side of the highway, sit there and sell, vegetables. And so that's what I grew up doing. And then, they came in with a co-op idea, and that kind of brought the whole community together and created a better economy for the community, right? And I see that's what you guys are doing now in Ghana as well. It's been amazing to see, because I've experienced it firsthand as a child, and the benefit that it brought to my community, to my family. So I can just imagine what it's doing for the people out there.
Well, look at it like there's strength in numbers, right? And so again, if they get together, then the cost of operating the farm comes down. But then again, at the sale process, they're able to demand a little bit of a higher sale price, right? Because they have bigger bulk and can buy from a bigger buyer. It's not from one, artisan farmer to a small village that has very little money to purchase resources. So again, we're taking it to the next level for them and graduating them up the food chain, so to speak, to improve the quality of life. The other thing is technology is at the root of everything we do. And a lot of people say, well, where's the technology in farming? Well, think about, if your crop yield is coming in at a certain rate, maybe you need to irrigate a little bit more, or maybe you need to adjust, the amount of fertilizer that you're putting in, because that could affect the crop yield by somewhere between 15 to 30%.
There's a science and art to grow as well.
It's very technical. So, and again, what we promote is organic growing, right? And they have a lot of the natural resources there, so they don't need to use, expensive, chemical induced, fertilizer. They can use natural resources to do what they do. So making it even more efficient, making it less expensive to operate, getting more crop yield, being able to sell more at market, it really benefits the people. And it has a big impact, especially when, as I'm sure you know, when you start to put them into groups, into co-ops, the numbers grow pretty fast.
A lot faster, yeah. Let's segue into from GROW. Let's segue into the scanning technology. Let's talk a little bit about how that scanning technology can be used for GROW. I know you and I did an interview when we were out in Ghana. We talked about how scanning technology is actually able to identify water, and so then you can come and go and drill for water instead of having to take it via aqueduct to miles and miles out, right?
Exactly. So we're able to do water surveys where we're able to identify aquifers that are underneath the ground that you wouldn't normally be able to see. So instead of just going out and trying to drill water wells everywhere, trying to find water to irrigate lands, and again, coming from an aqueduct that is manufactured and engineered, it may be too far to bring the water to the land. But if you could drill a well, then that solves that problem. The other thing is that in one of our recent developments, we're now working with an aerospace company that specializes in monitoring and doing different things, including the Internet of Things. So think about putting sensors in the ground,
yeah,
that ping the satellite, that tell you what the soil moisture is. So do I need to be irrigating every other day, or can I do it once a week, right? And again, bringing labor costs down, bringing things that are more efficient, because again, you don't necessarily need to be irrigating every 3 days, but that's what they learn.
You can just log in and check that from your phone. Soil moisture looks good. I don't got to irrigate today.
Exactly. Perfect. So again, increasing crop yields. These are the things. This is the technology. This is the life-changing stuff that the DET platform is bringing into these communities and all the way into West Africa, believe it or not.
Now let's talk a little bit. You mentioned the aerospace company. We've already announced who they are by the time this gets released. So we're right now in a very, very important stage of the development and growth of the ecosystem as a whole, because the Explorer project basically is the underlying technology that helps grow all of the other projects, whether it's BGLD or GROW or DLG. That technology is used in one way, shape, or form in all of those other projects.
And that's what really turns the DebtBox platform into a true ecosystem. Because one project supports other projects. And just like you said, Joe, you got it 100% correct, that Explore technology now gives us the most comprehensive remote satellite scanning
and monitoring
suite
yeah.
of tools that exist in the marketplace. So we see this as a big game changer, not only for XPLR, but also for black gold and natural gas. This will allow us to find and help increase more natural resource development that will eventually benefit the platform as well.
In the beginning, I think it's a great partnership, but you guys could have gone a bunch of different directions with trying to get the satellites for XPLR, launched up into space.
So it's actually a good question. So Roy, who you had on your last episode, and I have been working with Resident Frequency, the company we founded, to use resonant nuclear magnetic frequency technology to identify mineral targets. And that technology was adapted from the oil and gas industry. And so because we understand resonant frequency technology, that's really pretty brand new, but very cutting edge and groundbreaking, which is called ambient noise topography. So it does use frequency through these seismic phones that are placed in the ground over a period of time to record the frequencies that are coming out of the ground. So it's similar technology, but different. So our nuclear magnetic resonance technology and their ambient noise topography technology are based in a frequency kind of category.
Correct.
So this is how we found them, and this is why it was a really good complementary partnership between us and them, because we do something similar to what they do, but together we're stronger.
Yeah. And I know I've seen a couple kind of marketing videos, and it, like you said, it just kind of lines up perfectly, because I know what they're trying to do is essentially identify resources for, this planet, but I know they also have ambitions for off-planet stuff as far as the expansion into space and different, projects like that. So
they're
I think
a little bit more ambitious and
Yeah.
probably a little bit more.
I've seen that.
A little more resources behind them.
Yeah.
So we're going to concentrate right here on Earth. We'll let them deal with the moon and Mars.
Yeah, but I just think that's cool because we're partnered with somebody that's, like you said, ambitious and forward thinking like that, right? Yeah. There's a lot of work to do here. There's a lot of work to do in West Africa. There's a lot of lives to change and impact in West Africa and all over the world, right? And I think the work that you guys are doing on the physical side, going out to sites. Well, let me ask one question. With those seismic phones, geonodes, I don't know exactly the term for it.
Yeah.
Who puts those in the ground?
Call them geos. We do.
That's what I'm saying, right? You actually, I'm imagining at one point you'll have to get them, you'll receive them, or a team will.
Yeah.
You'll have to probably get in
we'll deploy
a land cruiser somewhere.
That's right. We'll have to take them into the field, into the jungle. We'll deploy them in an array. That information will ping the satellites. That information will come back. The algorithms will crunch the data that we collect, and we'll build a 3D subterranean model of whatever target we're looking for.
Let me ask you just a quick question so that people can understand. Now, where you're going to put these, I'll call them geophones or geonodes.
They're geodes.
The geodes, is it paved highway out there? Is it just I can walk up and drop it?
No. We would be traversing or rappelling down the side of a mountain and placing one, going into the deep, thick jungle with machetes, cutting a path through to get there. And again, what we're doing is something that's never been done before. So we're really changing the game in the sense that there were a lot of hard to reach places where you can't get a drill rig in there. You can't get certain types because there's just no access. We talked about the roads and the ability. I mean, imagine, the rainforest. I mean, you're not going to get a truck in there only because of the lush, jungle and the hilly topography. It's impossible. So harnessing natural resources from those areas weren't possible before. Now they are, because we've got an aerospace company that had the ambition to try to improve upon a certain technology, and you've got us, right, on the other side that have a similar technology, understand how it works, and we're willing to go into the field and deploy it.
Well, and that's what I want people to understand. People that are on the digital side, our license holders.
Yeah.
A lot of times we sit back and we have our box running. We got our V box. We're up, and I check my phone and I'm like, oh, the token price is down, and I'm a little bit angry. The price just keeps dropping and keeps dropping. But on the other end, we have people, people that are out there hiking across, traversing across mountain tops and hills and rappelling down mountains, putting these geonodes into the ground to collect information, scanning, making deals with government. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on to just the token price.
Absolutely. There's no question.
And so I want to try to get that point across to people. What do you think would be the best way to get that point across to people? Is like, look, don't focus on the price of the token. Focus on the value that Debtbox or that project is bringing to the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you take us out of the, look, not all cryptos can, created equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Dogecoin. I mean, some of these things were memes that became kind of ironic and funny, and people got behind it, and Elon touts it, and this and that. But there's really nothing of substance in the sense that people just want to get behind it, right?
Yeah.
We're a movement.
Yeah.
We're a movement like that, but we're affecting lives. So everything that we do, every time you see those mining cycles, that means that somebody in the world is working, right, on a physical project, either locating new natural resources to bring to market, and or having that quality of life of those people in those third world countries, rising up. So again, we're not some get rich quick scheme. This is something that has a long trajectory, and the longer you hold, the more valuable it will be over time. But this is basically answering a lot of the problems that exist in the world. Like, we have 8 billion people on the planet now. Where is all this food going to come from? We currently don't grow enough food. Food insecurity across the planet exists to the tune of billions of people, and this is a major problem that's going to continue to grow, so to speak. So somebody's got to got to get organized to figure out how do we empower more farmers to grow more food. That's GROW.
And I know there's a lot of, well-known billionaires out there, for example, that are now starting to buy up farmland here in the U.S. And there's a reason behind that. There's a reason that people are starting to get into farming, because there's obviously food insecurity across the globe. So, and I want people to understand. I get asked the question, well, what's the utility of the token? Well, the utility of what you have to look at is the utility of the project. What problems are we solving in the real world, right? And I think that's where the value of DebtBox is. There's nothing else like it in the world. There's no other, whether it's a node, blockchain mining out there, whether Bitcoin doesn't solve this problem, Ethereum doesn't solve these types of problems, right? And this is something that we're attacking, and the underlying technology is one aspect of it. But I also like to point out to all the people that are listening to this, it's also all the underlying experience that you and your partners on the Debt Council also bring to this. It's not like this is a 1-year-old project. This is years and years in the making.
Well, going with that said, and that was very well. I mean, this started with just a few people, right? Talking about how do we do it differently? How do we do it better, right? And how do we affect, good change along the way? And again, like anybody in this industry, we were all very blown away by, the initial Satoshi white paper, and just thought, wow, this is an idea, right, of decentralization and empowering the people and taking this to a different level and leveling the playing field from the ivory towers and bringing it down to the local level, right, the community level of the people. So DebtBox is founded on that belief, right? So we went forward and started to grow what we thought was the movement, and which this has become. And it's become a movement. And it's not about the person saying the words, it's more about the words that are being said. Because all the people that are watching this and that are a license holder or are part of the IX community are part of that movement now, right? They're positively contributing to everything that we're talking about. So when you say you're watching the price of a coin go up or down, right? Look, everybody, it's always great when everything's up. It's not always as rosy as everything's down, but you have to look at the larger picture. And when people say, what's the utility? Well, the utility is we're feeding more people on the planet. We're bringing more natural resources to bear that are very much needed. And we're also improving the quality of life for not hundreds and not thousands, but tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And that's not being done in this community. So and when I say community, I mean in the digital space.
Yeah.
So really what we saw the opportunity to do was bring this really amazing blockchain technology full circle and to kind of these simple, kind of movement projects and have the bridge built between the two and link the two, right? So how does a guy in Draper, Utah, or Salt Lake City affect, food insecurity in Kenya? Well, DebtBox. How does a guy in, Colombia affect, energy prices in, Australia? DebtBox. I mean,
yeah.
we're just scratching the surface, Joe. But and you've seen it firsthand. You've been with us in the field, and you see how big and how the momentum of this is going. It really is something more than just digital currency.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's what I kind of want to start closing up the conversation on, right? Is kind of what is your vision for the future of DebtBox? And I know, we were out in Ghana, and I heard you say a couple things. Is number one, when I heard you speak about it, it was like, oh, we want to be, kind of like the Uber, Airbnb for the mining and exploration, field. And then another thing that caught my ear when you were talking is, right now we're currently, operating. For example, I know we got projects in the U.S. as far as oil and gas, and West Africa. So right now you guys are on 2 continents. I've heard you say you have some very ambitious plans on that sense as far as, where you want to be mining and exploring and impacting local communities. So maybe speak on that a little bit.
What's kind of amazing about this is the roadmap's already kind of been laid out for us, right? We don't have to put too much thought into this because, again, and I don't know why this is. It's kind of like the adage of, why do those tornadoes always hit the trailer parks, right? Like, I don't know, but it always hits those trailer parks. It's the same thing. So if you go into Brazil, Colombia, you go into Papua New Guinea, you go into Australia, there's always indigenous people there, right? There's always like the local communities that are basically sitting on all these natural resources but aren't getting their fair shake. So again, for us, our ambition is to go into these communities and replicate what we've been able to do here in North America and in West Africa and benefit those communities, and at the same time apply our technology, but allow those people and those communities that we operate in to have a fair, seat at the table, to make sure that they're getting the value that they deserve
for them and their people.
That's
right?
it, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it becomes, much more of a mission, right, and a movement, because we're guided by these higher principles, and we want to help people. There's nothing wrong with helping people and being successful along the way.
Yeah.
So the more successful we are, the more help that we're being able to put out there.
Well, and I'm going to share this story real quick. I was driving my daughter to school this morning, actually, and we have all these people coming in right now. We got some people watching us here in the studio. We got some people upstairs. Sure. Got a lot of people down at the hotel, and my daughter really likes that, the social aspect of the business and everything that we're doing. And we start naming some names, and she's like, Daddy, does this person work for you? I'm like, no, I work for them. I tell her that. And then she asked me, Daddy, does this person? I'm like, no, I work for them. And they're people that are employees in the company, or they're, part of the organization in the as brand ambassadors. And she asked me, is like, Dad, but if you're you're the owner of the company, how are you working for all these people? And I told her, is like, my philosophy is something that I was taught very early on my career as an entrepreneur. Help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. And that's what you just said. That's right. We're guided by higher principles. We are here to make an impact in the world. And so debt isn't just the digital side. Debt isn't just, cryptocurrency ecosystems based on this blockchain or that and token prices. There's actually human impact that's going on, real world value that's getting added to these communities around the world. And I know that happens here in the US because I was able to go out to Nebraska a few months ago as well, meet the landowners out there. Right. He's the landowner, I won't say his name for certain purposes, but we was able to meet him, shake his hand, and he's just ecstatic because now he has basically generational wealth where he has cattle. I don't know how well his cattle ranch was doing, good or bad as far as economically, but I know now he has a plan B for him and his future legacy. And I think that happens everything that I've seen from GROW to BGLD to NatG to DLG, you guys are impacting on that human side. And that is one of our core values here at, IX is, innovate, inspire, and impact. And I truly believe that if we just keep on this mission of, helping people, yes, on the digital side, we got to go out there and market and sell. But I know the work that you guys are doing on the human side. On the physical side, I want people to understand and know that you guys are, out there. You're putting a lot of work in, sleepless nights, and I know me and you took a bus ride for 4 hours,
just to get to one
location, then to take another, car ride to another place. It's sacrifice at the same time.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of real work.
Yeah,
this isn't like a cakewalk by any means. And again, we're developing natural resources, and we're doing it, in some really difficult places. But hence the opportunity.
Yes,
right? And that's why this exists. So if someone's thinking about applying their commodity or their resources, whether that's their time and energy to learn more about DebtBox and IX Global, or put $1 into, one of our products, do your due diligence.
Yep.
Look at, see what it is, and compare us to the rest of the industry and see what they're doing. I can only speak about what we're doing. I can't speak about what anybody else is doing. And again, when digital currency came out, I was very intrigued. I was this whole notion of leveling the playing field and decentralizing was very interesting to me. But at the same time, too, I knew it could be used and utilized much wider and broader. And that's what we've done. We've really, where some of these digital currencies, they're just out there to exist, we actually have true utility in the world, in these different communities, affecting change. So again, I can only talk about what we do, and you've seen it firsthand, and it is pretty gratifying. So everybody that supports what we're doing is a part of that, and we, both Joe, you and I, we work for them.
Yes, yeah, and that's exactly what I was trying to teach my daughter this morning. Right, is like, look,
Very good.
yes, we are here. We're helping run, whether from the debt council or the ownership side in IX or whatever. Yes, we started this. There's obviously some benefit that we'll have long term, but we truly want to go out there and help as many people as we can, whether on the physical side or on the digital side. And that's what I love about the partnership that we've created between Debtbox and IX. And Schad, I appreciate you coming out here. I know you just flew in.
No problem.
It's been amazing having you on here, and I know these podcasts are going to be of great value for a lot of people to come. So I don't know if you have any closing words, any closing comments, but thank you so much for being out here with us.
I appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for
All right,
having
thank
me.
you so much, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Okay, sounds good.